So this is just an off-the-cuff rant I was going to do on a live stream, but the Spurgs came in and got my chat banned and my channel demonetized, so I figured I'll just rant off the cuff here and make a quick little YouTube video. I don't see any reason this would get pulled. It shouldn't be offensive to anyone, but you never know. A lot has changed since I was a kid, and speaking of when I was a kid, you know, there was a lot in common between people you would call right-wing and people you would call left-wing, and in many regards. I remember Rage Against the Machine weren't the most popular group back then. They were kind of like a cultish group that a certain group of individuals held on to. What was most popular in the 90s was the rap coming out, especially on the West Coast, and the grunge music that was coming out, coincidentally, on the West Coast up there in Seattle, Washington, and areas adjacent. But I kind of liked Rage. I was so on Rage. I thought Tom Morello was a good guitar player. Zach De La Rocha, he's not really a great singer, but he's just got that voice. The microphone explodes. He's just got that good voice. But it was what they stood for that a lot of people could really coalesce around. The fact that the poor were being taken advantage of and the corporations were running roughshod among the nation and the most vulnerable people. And it was always memed, kind of, I guess you could say, that the right wing were all for corporations. Well, this isn't true. See, unlike the left wing, which accepts all comers and just calls them Democrats. I mean, and I'm not saying that as an insult, just a point of fact. You see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders, they are admitted socialists. Then you have more progressive-minded people. Then you have Zionists like Chuck Schumer. Then you have just progressive crooks like Pelosi, and they're all under the same banner of Democrat. They accept everyone. The right wing, however, it segments itself off. Republicans and conservatives are different things. Not to the left looking at the right, of course, and that's understandable. Enemies be enemies, whatever. But the right wing, the bread and butter of the right wing, they never liked the corporation. They sided with the left that corporations were bad. Predating on people was bad. Throwing people out of their houses was bad. Charging all of this money was bad. It was bad. The neocons are the ones who were all about the business. And we see this today. It's pushed, and we'll get into this a lot more about media, why media lie to people in this regard. But it was always pushed that the right wing had the backing of Wall Street. It was the right wing that had the backing of all the billionaires. We see that this is not true. It just isn't true. Some of them do, but most of the biggest billionaires, most all of the biggest corporations, almost exclusively donate to Democrats, Democratic causes, etc. But anyways, we found a little bit of common interest, under Obama. Obama was a very polarizing figure, whether he intended to be or not. Trump, to follow him, was also a polarizing figure, whether he intended to be or not. But we saw a lot of people who could get along. The Occupy Wall Street movement brought in a lot of right-wing people. It really did. A lot of right-wing people agreed with the left-wing message. After the housing crisis, after you saw people who for a decade paid their mortgage rates, and then they decided, hey, let's just literally fucking financially rape people and jack grandma's mortgage up by 17%. She can't afford to pay it. She gets evicted. The bank keeps the house. Oh my God, such bullshit. And the left, a lot of it was grassroots. Probably most of it ended up being astroturfed, but that is what it is. That's just what happens with any movement. It gets co-opted. It gets faked a lot. It becomes a LARP. But the heart and soul of the OWS, Occupy Wall Street, was really the left wing being Rage Against the Machine. They were against the bankers, all of these huge corporations that were just taking advantage of people. All of these huge banks, JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America and Capital One and all of these corporations and these mortgage lenders, and the 99%, right? The left's message was even open to the right. Hey, come on, guys. You are also part of the 99%. And you look at 2021 and you're like, what happened to that? What happened to that? That is the crux of this video. What happened to let's go after the corporations? The corporations are the bad guys. It's quite literally here. I'm not using that word for effect or, dramatic effect. It's what happened to coalescing around going after predatory lending and inflation rates and turning all people into debt slaves. Well, what happened is that corporations who own media told media to find another boogeyman, and all of these people that once thought themselves so intelligent and so independent just bought wholesale into the idea that corporations were the good guys. Are you old enough to remember when the Supreme Court made this ruling and you had all the left screaming corporations aren't people? Well, it's the exact opposite now. The corporate earth is what drives the left in totality. I'm telling you, rage became the machine. Tom Morello outside of a diner screaming, "Let me in, do you know who I am?" That's not a person for the everyman. That's an elitist fucking scumbag. Charging more than anybody else to see their concerts and then not giving a penny of it to fucking charity. This is what happened to people, and it makes you wonder, did they ever care? I would like to think they did, but here's exactly what happened. They were beating down the doors of corporations. People couldn't get to work on Wall Street. It was getting bad. Occupy Wall Street was gaining a lot of momentum in just still the grassroots part of it. A lot of right-wing people were agreeing with them. A lot of them were. I tell you, point blank, a whole lot of the Tea Party that was staunchly anti-Obama agreed wholeheartedly with the message that we are the 99%. But what happened? The media that the left consume. And I'm not a Fox fan. Fuck Fox. They're fake news too. And Tucker Carlson's a bitch. I'm talking about the media that the left consume, however, including the comedy shows like Jimmy Kimmel and Trevor Noah and them, but MSNBC and CNN, and they're all owned by the same few companies. Time Warner and Disney and Viacom and CBS and Comcast. They all own them, and they said, "Oh shit, they're coming for us with pitchforks and with torches. They're coming for us. What do we do? Oh, I know." They started pushing the narrative that white people were the bad people. No, Grandma didn't lose her house because of predatory mortgage lending. Grandma lost her house because of white supremacy. Grandma lost her house because of white privilege. Well, but Grandma is white. Yeah, but still, white privilege has nothing to do with wealth. White privilege is about but she got thrown over her house. Yeah, but still, white privilege isn't about being able to keep a house or not. White privilege is just push it back to a gap, back to a gap, back to a gap. This is all orchestrated entirely by media. Who owns the media? Yeah, is Elon home? Tell him who owns the media. Who's been doing this? Who's pushed the idea that everything bad in America that used to be chalked up to look what all of these Scrooge McDucks are doing to us. Look how we're all their debt slaves. Look at this. And the left still has a little tiny fraction bit of that with their student loans. But still, instead of complaining about their student loans, all they have to do is news has to run a story about a George Floyd, and they forget entirely about the corporations, and they start, white people are the enemy, and they start foaming at the mouth and resenting people based on their race. All of this is what the corporations did intentionally to divert attention away. And the reason it works is because from the time you enter the public school system, you're taught not about the good things that Europeans have did. Do you know how many people are fed now because of advanced agricultural practices around the world? Drought-resistant corn, disease-resistant wheat. How Africa's population has boomed by 1 billion. How India's population's boomed. That you can look at that as good or bad, but these are people who are alive and fed and whose children aren't dying as soon as they're born. They don't talk about that from Europeans. They don't talk about Europeans being number one, far and away, the most generous people when it comes to charitable donations. Look, I'm not trying to make this a race thing. I'm really not. I'm just saying, who comes to people's aid when a tsunami hits fucking Indonesia somewhere? Huh? The Chinese aren't loading up cruisers to go down there to lend aid. And it's not the Indians, and it's not the South Americans, and it's not the South Africans. They're the Nigerians or the Congoans. It's Europeans. It's white people. It really is. They don't talk about any of the good that white people have did. What did they talk about that white people did from the time you start kindergarten to the time you get out of college? Oh, slavery. Enslaved black people. They'll never, not once, tell you that the Irish made up 70% of the Atlantic slave trade before Africans started selling Africans. They won't tell you that Africans sold other Africans. And they won't tell you that Africa still has over 9 million slaves today. They won't tell you any of that. They'll tell you white people bad, white people own slaves, white people Jim Crow, white people Indian manifest destiny, white people bad. And so when media turns around and tells you your grandma lost her house, your uncle can't buy his diabetes medication. Why? Because all these white people are fascist, Nazi, Hitler, racist, Hitler, fascist, Nazis. And they believe it. Because all of their lives, that's who they've been taught the bad guy was in the situation. And before media started beating that drum constantly that it was white people, people could absorb that information in school and compartmentalize that by drawing that linear timeline in their head. Like, oh, this is the way things were then, but now it's the corporations that are messing us all up. Now it's these big corporations who, when you look into, by and large, aren't headed up by white people. We'll just leave that there. That's what was getting under people's skin. That was getting people's ire up, saying, oh, it's the corporations that are doing all of this bad stuff. But no, it's white people now. Media have just pushed that on society as a whole, that you're somehow a bad person if you're a white person, and you're somehow causing the misery of other people, and it's all a corporate hoax. Man, there's so much that we could come together on as people living in the United States of America. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Europe. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the US of A. There's so much that we could come together on, and so much we could call corporations out for. But yet you have somebody like LeBron James who'll sit up there and be sponsored by a company that uses child slavery and sweatshop labor for pennies a day to produce products that sell for hundreds of dollars so he can get paid millions of dollars. And he's got the audacity to talk about how bad white people are. Why? Media. It breaks my heart that people, when I was growing up as a kid, as a teenager, people who didn't trust media, they didn't trust the corporations. They understood media is controlled by corporations. But people now will know that Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post and just not care. They'll take everything said there as truth. My postulate, my hypothesis for this, is that these are angry people. The rage part is still true. They're angry people. We're all angry people to an extent. They want an enemy to fight. The fucked up part is they're fighting people based on who the enemy tells them to fight. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine you're going to war? People have invaded your country, raped your women, murdered your children, enslaved your men. And you've had all of you can take and you're not going to take it anymore. The buck stops here, your foot goes down, whatever the fuck. Whatever. And you suit up, you build an army, coalesce around one another, and you go to war. And you find the enemy on the battlefield, and they all say, psst, come here. Come here. It's free. Nah, they say, hey. You see us? We're not the bad guys. You see this village over here? Yeah, I see that village. You see how how they got running water and how they got food and stuff? Yeah, we see that. Well, that's because they're bad people. You see, in the past, they did some bad things. What kind of bad things? Oh man, really bad things, really bad things. And if it wasn't for them having all of this stuff, then your women wouldn't be raped, and your children wouldn't be murdered, and your men wouldn't be enslaved. So, hey, don't fight us. Don't fight us. We're the good guys. Those are your enemies. And the dumb motherfuckers believe it. How? How are you that fucking dumb to fucking believe it? Media, what I'm posting this on right now is a big part of media. YouTube. It's a fucking bullshit site. It's nonsense. They control everything here. The algorithms. My shit gets hardly any views, and I'm not complaining about that. I'm a little nobody. But you got people who are a lot more popular than I am, and will speak some truth to power and speak some wisdom, and they don't hate. They try to participate. They try to get everybody, to love one another. Hey, everybody love everybody, right? Jackie Moon style. And what will YouTube do? They'll fucking ban them. But then you'll get a fucking guy who's got another guy shoving dildos up his ass, talking about what's in my butt challenge. Or you get a guy talking about how 3-year-olds in the bathroom are kinky and that's why he finds them sexy. That shit is recommended to you in your feed even if you've never watched any fucking thing like that in your fucking life. Bad guys. These are the bad guys. The corporations are the bad guys. Shame on you for believing what the enemy tells you is wrong. Shame on you. There's no other way to put this. There's really not. I should have wrote a script. I'm speaking off the cuff here. I might be a little repetitive. I don't know. It's 9:30 in the morning and I haven't slept. So, you can downvote this if you want. I don't give a fuck. What I'm saying right now is the truth. Undeniable truth. The corporations that were being held accountable during the Occupy Wall Street movement, they came out en masse and flipped the script and changed the narrative and started pushing the idea that it was white people who were responsible for everything. That's when media started burying every story about something that happens bad to white people. Did you know over 2 times as many white people are killed by the police than black people, even though black people have 7 times more interactions with the police? Yeah, white people have fewer interactions with the police and are killed more. They bury Tony Timpa and Joseph Sheldon Hutcherson, who both were killed like George Floyd was. Knee to the neck, held down. For Tony Timpa, they were laughing at him when he said he couldn't breathe. They were laughing at him. Oh, well, cry about it. And media don't show you that, but media will show you George Floyd. Media will run Brown and tell you. Why? Look, man, you know why. You know why. If you're upset at this nebulous white supremacist society, then you're not going after the corporations. The corporations are the bad guys. The corporations are the ones who fucking rape us all financially. They've made us all debt slaves. And the most fucked up thing here is that I'm not saying anything you don't know. If you're a leftist watching this who wholeheartedly believes in white supremacy, you know full fuck well that the corporations are the bad guys, and a decade ago you hated their guts. So just ask yourself one simple question. Wait till you're all alone so nobody knows that you're asking it. Wait till it's dark and you're laying down in bed by yourself. Instead of counting sheep, ask yourself the question, why am I believing what the enemy tells me to believe? Do you think maybe, just maybe, corporations have an ulterior motive because they fear the actual power of the people? Communist, socialist, Marxist, give it a name, they all want to talk about constantly the power of the people. The people, workers of the world unite, etc. But what are you uniting against? Yeah, I guess you could say that too with all the fires being set recently. Against what are you uniting? Are you going to unite against the actual bad people? Are you going to unite against the lie that they're telling you that all of this bad stuff that's happening is happening because white people somehow exist? Are you not better than this? Really, are you not better than this? The corporations are the bad guys. Simple as.